Oh, here's a game. Let's play d4. And see what kind of response we get. The martial defense to the queen's gambit. So let's see how he plays it. Generally, white gets a good game out of this. So that's why it's not played very often, the martial defense. You have to play this knight f3 move to stop black from getting counterplay with e5. But after that, then you get to chase those pieces around. And it's not like the Grinfeld where you got a bishop here and the knight on c3 that knight can trade itself for. Yeah, so you get this. Instead, that knight has just lost some time, and white has a pretty big advantage in development. So where do I want to put the light squared bishop? Could go to c4, or to d3, or to e2. c4 is interesting. Maybe it'll provoke him to play... but the bishop is a target there. After c4, he could play b5 and then b4, hitting my knight and driving it away from the defense of this pawn. So I guess c4 is out. So let's put it on d3. I guess it'll be active there. Okay, that is potentially under-defended if this knight moves. So let's drop back. I could also have defended with bishop to e3, but then maybe the knight would come to the knight would come to g4 to hit the bishop. So just leaving that optional for a while. So it's attacked by the queen and potentially by the bishop. And now he's pinning my knight. So if he takes and I take, that means I lose the d-pawn. So now I should play here then. Defending that pawn, and his knight can't go to the g4 square because his bishop is there. Then I will kick the bishop. And the bishop has to retreat, or if he takes, yeah, let's do this right away so that we can resolve the situation with this knight here. Well, this knight is not really going to be needed to defend the pawn, but the knight, I didn't want to bring the knight to d or e2 there and allow him to take my knight and mess up my pawns on the king side. So what is this? Now if he pushes this pawn, everything's defended in the center. He's got a weakness on c3, so probably bringing my rook here is a good thing to do. And if he pushes that pawn, the knight can just go to e2 without a problem now. That's defended, that's defended. So everything looks good. Maybe the knight will go to e2 voluntarily. Well, if he pushes, I should definitely consider knight a4. Knight a4 to c5 looks like a nice journey for the knight. Okay, so black is looking for a move. He needs to develop his knight. He hasn't developed that yet. And yeah, didn't have anywhere to go except there. Now from there, it probably goes to c2. If it hops into b4, I can drop the bishop back to b1, defending everything and covering the d3 square, so and then kick it. So knight b4 is not doing much unless I give it a target, like queen to d3. That would give it a target. So I should avoid queen d3. But other than that, maybe now would be a good time to trade off his dark squared bishop. That's probably one of his better pieces here. And the knight could go to c2. And where does it go from c2, really? And if I weaken his king side by trading off that dark squared bishop, then maybe I can bring my queen and knight over and start maybe pushing some pawns forward. Maybe I can get a king side attack going. This bishop here is kind of lurking along this diagonal. I have to soften it up because he does have this structure here if I want to attack. But there's still some possibilities, I think. Some potential for an attack. Or I could just go after this weakened c-pawn at some point. He did go there. Okay, so I thought just dropping the bishop back would be fine, and the knight really has nowhere to go from that b4 square. It's just kind of, when I play a3, it's going to go back to a5. And it helped me by getting my bishop off of this file here, so now the rook is looking at the c-pawn. Okay, what next? He could play rook to c8, getting ready maybe to push that c-pawn forward if he can get away with it. It doesn't seem likely. Then the knight, actually, if he had the knight on a6 and the rook on c8, then maybe he could push to, yeah, so he just went back without being asked. Okay, so let's continue with my plan of trading off the dark squared bishop here. Another idea for black would have been to move the rook. If he moves the rook to e8, then he could retreat the bishop and keep that bishop on this diagonal. But I would get to keep a bishop here on h6. Sometimes that can be turning into an attack on the back rank later. Okay, so now he takes this moment to harass the knight. So this is a decision. I like the way knight a5 looks. But what happens if he pushes that pawn? Knight a5, he plays, knight a4, he plays c5. I take. Now let's try let's try drawing this. Knight a4, he plays c5, and I take it. I guess it doesn't help if I draw those, huh? Let's erase them. I can take it. He takes. I take with the rook. Yeah, I guess that's good. And if he doesn't push that pawn forward, my knight can go to c5 and sit there. Well, he can trade it off. He can trade it off. It'll actually make this. Oh, but that loses the b pawn. No, I have to do this in the right order. So I'll have to take the bishop first, and then play the knight here. And when he trades, I take back his b-pawn is hanging. But the queen can't do two jobs. It's got to keep its eye on this bishop over here, too. He's taking his time here. What else has he got? Normally black just takes, but that does invite my queen forward here. Could move his e-pawn forward. but only to e6. I guess if he goes to e5, I'll take it. And you know, I can just pile up pressure on that c-pawn now that this file is open. So maybe knight c5 isn't best. If I have a free move, maybe knight e5 is even better, hitting the bishop and the pawn. Okay, so I guess black is in a difficult position, probably activating a rook. Those are his pieces that are not doing anything. Bishop is defending a pawn. This knight, he could try and reroute the knight, but that's kind of slow. Rook to c8 with some idea of being able to push the c-pawn forward, maybe, as an idea for black. Oh, there he goes. Found that move. So now if I play knight to e5, he just pushes, I take, he takes, I take, he takes. Yeah, it's not so great. So let's park the knight there in advance. Keep that pawn from coming forward. And still I want to take on g7 before things get too active here, but I think so far I don't need to do that. Just have to remember this pawn is not really hanging because my queen is needed to defend the bishop. And of course he can defend the pawn anyway with a5. But he's got this permanent weakness on c6. I can pile up on that by doubling rooks, bringing knight to e5. Yeah. So let's start by trading off the bishop. And bring the knight in first. And then bring the other rook to the c-file. Able to get 3 pieces on that pawn very quickly, and he's got 2 defenders. He can get the queen involved, can't he? Maybe lift up a rook, I bring a rook over, he gets the queen behind the rook. Okay, but he's going to try and kick my knight, and so I want to prepare a landing spot for the knight here. I want to just grab that pawn. So now I think, well, he has queen to b6 is the idea here. Queen b6. As a way to defend that pawn. Oh, it leaves the bishop hanging. Of course, he can't play queen b6. So he goes that way. So let's grab the pawn. It hits the queen. And let's keep grabbing. Okay. And now if he takes on e4, my bishop is defending e4. So he goes to that diagonal, which is interesting. I was thinking if I just played d5 here to defend the rook, that would open up this square for my queen. I could come in and give a check to his king here. Because that rook, you know, on the 3rd rank is looking like a good piece. And now the bishop there, it's also looking pretty good. He can't play rook to, he can play his knight there. I can pin it, but I don't have the check anymore. So I guess that doesn't help. Let's just drop the bishop back. It's on a square where it's defended, and okay, so he's piling up on that. I wanted to push it forward. So if I push the pawn forward and he takes, then I can take back, hitting his queen. He takes, I take. I think that works. Or maybe even rook here, check if he takes. So he moved his queen. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's pinned. That pawn is pinned. Let's see, I can go here to unpin the pawn. Okay, so we just went for this simplification, bishop versus knight with queens on the board, and black is down a pawn. And he's offering a trade. Let's see, the check here is guarded, so I don't need to trade. Hitting the pawn over here, so he defends. Let's go with the check. He really wants to just trade, huh? Can I get something out of this? Well, it's just going to be a long endgame where I'm a piece up, but I mean where I'm a pawn up. Let's see if I can win the endgame. There's pawns on both sides of the board, which is supposed to be one of those factors that make it good for the bishop. With the bishop out of the way, I can bring a pawn forward to push his king back. He attacks my bishop again. I can run to B5 there. But basically I want to push his king back. And try and get my passed pawn going here. So he's trying to trap my bishop, I guess. Got to be a little careful. Don't want to get it trapped. Don't want to fall for any silly knight forks. Okay, so let's put the bishop here where it's looking at this nice diagonal here. I'm going to push this pawn forward. So I'm starting to make progress here in this endgame. I'm getting that passed pawn going here. And forcing his king back. He needs to come back to defend. Okay, so he just ran out of time, but I'm pretty sure this was a winning endgame in any case. So that was an interesting game. I will upload this and do a postmortem and see you guys later. Bye.